So all the panelists are here. Good evening. I'm Deepika Tuteja, founder, architect of Inno, and I welcome you to today's discussion on reimagining sustainable neighborhoods. This is first of the series of Live Sustainably, which we'll be carrying on, where we would like to have participation from the citizens, and we'll start at the grassroots level. So today in this webinar, we are hoping to find solutions to create a sustainable neighborhood, a model somewhere. I would like to welcome Mr. Naresh Yadav, advocate, member, Legislative Assembly, Delhi from Mehrauli constituency. You are welcome, Mr. Yadav. Everyone knows about Mr. Yadav, but I would like to add few things which I know from here personally. He's an enthusiastic leader with a vision to work collectively in a team for the development works of his constituency. He's known by his humility and hard work, and the works done under his leadership speak for him. To take things to reality on ground, he formed a committee of experienced professionals who are on our panel today. Thank you, Mr. Yadav, for taking out time and making this happen. And when this has happened,
thank you.
When this has happened, I'm sure the reality will happen. And we have
नमस्कार गंजू साहब, नमस्कार.
नमस्कार.
मैं मैनी जी, सुशील जी, आप सभी को मेरा नमस्कार.
आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. आपने इतना टाइम निकाला. एटलीस्ट वी कैन होप कि ये चीज हम रियलिटी को ले जा सकते हैं. So we have senior most professional amongst us, Mr. Ashish Ganju, architect. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining and taking out time. Just a little background for others.
रुचि जी, sorry.
Thank you.
मैं थोड़ा सेट कर रहा हूँ अभी.
मेरे को
इसको मोबाइल को ना.
अच्छा, अभी शुरू करें.
छोड़ दो.
Mr. Ganju, you were the founding director of TVB School of Habitat Studies. Those who would like to know more about you, so I have a small introduction for each one of our panelists. And Mr. Ganju has been a member of several committees of the Government of India, including the Committee to Advise on Maintenance and Modifications in Rashtrapati Bhavan, New Delhi, and the Ministry of Urban Development's Committee for Redevelopment of the Luton's Bungalow Zone, New Delhi. Thank you, sir, for being here. And you've also authored a book, and you have won several prizes in national and international design competitions. Thank you for taking out time. We also have on our panel Dr. Pawan Maini, Regional Director, MACE India. You're welcome, Mr. Maini. You provide leadership to the entire MACE India portfolio of projects and staff. Mr. Maini has extensive experience across a range of sectors, both in India and globally. These include industrial infrastructure, utilities, buildings, and transportation. He was the country executive sponsor for the program management of the Mumbai International Airport, Terminal 2, and has helped deliver world-class infrastructure such as the DLF Crest and Cyber Park developments. Thank you for joining. And we have with us Mr. Sushil Agarwal. He's the one behind the contacts for everyone. Thank you, Mr. Agarwal.
Yes.
He's been practicing in Delhi since 1986. He has various prestigious architectural projects to his credit, such as Safdarjung Museum Extension Building, Expo Center at Noida, Expo City at Hyderabad, Theatre Academy building at Saket District Center. He has been contributing his time and skill for the social cause also, apart from being an active member of his RWA and Vasant Kunj Federation. He actively helped the authorities and MLA Shri Naresh Yadav ji in bringing the various RWAs and residents together to make the existing 6-lane road stretch from Andheria Moor to Fortis Crossing a reality. You're welcome, Mr. Agarwal. In addition, we have with us younger representation of 2 architects. First is architect Ruchi Verma. You're welcome. Founder and CEO of Humankind, Ruchi is an architect and urban designer by training and is extremely passionate about people and public spaces. She has worked extensively in the urban mobility and sustainable urban development sectors with government and non-government agencies. Ruchi and Humankind won the global honor for their work to accelerate the SDGs at World Urban Forum 2020. And last but not the least, our youngest panelist, Mr. Kinshuk Agarwal, architect, urbanist, partners, Studio Sustain. You're welcome, Kinshuk. He's an architect by qualification and profession. Kinshuk specializes in sustainability from individual buildings to urban level. He produced research work critically analyzing the implementation of BRT system in Delhi within the larger framework of transit-oriented development theories and its possible implementation models before TOD was officially adopted by the DDA in their master plan for Delhi. Thank you everyone for joining. And so to set the ball rolling, I'm sharing a presentation on the background of topic reimagining sustainable neighborhoods. So we'll start with this a brief introduction, which I'm sure each one of us are living through. Neighborhood, as we all know, is the smallest. Just a minute. Yeah. So neighborhood, as we know, all of us know, is the smallest denominator in any urban planning. Here I'm showing a plan of Saket. We'll give an example of Saket as a locality in our presentation. So as we all know, any residential development comprises of a broad mix of types like bungalows, semi-detached houses, apartments, and affordable housings. And all the public amenities and facilities are provided for the ease in accessing all the amenities for the residents through neighborhood planning concept. This is a general concept in any geographical location, whether it's India or anywhere else. With time, due to increase in population, the developed countries kept experimenting and upgrading their infrastructure. But developing countries like ours, the ratio of increase in population to the development of infrastructure was much lower. So the gap became very large and it was a difficult task to bridge that gap. Now the development DDA is the development authorities focus in the master plan for Delhi 2041 will be on sustainable and green mobility, along with accessible high quality public transport. The agency's focus will also be on walkable humane neighborhoods and public areas. How the neighborhood concept was previously, the way it was that going back in times, we are taking a reference as an example of Chandigarh and Delhi, which were planned on the concept of self-sufficient neighborhoods within the limited boundaries. Neighborhood was interwoven with the main and sub-arterial roads. Houses were planned around a common green area and the neighborhood amenities were at a walking distance. Ideally, the size of a neighborhood was strategically planned in such a way that a majority of the population was accommodated within a walking distance of 5 minutes from its center, where most of the daily life's needs were available within this area. This type of zoning activities to a greater extent diminish the amount and interval of automobile trips and contribute towards low carbon footprint. But now what has happened with time, a single unit has been remodeled into 3 or 4 units, thus increasing the infrastructure requirements. Roads with pedestrian paths have disappeared to accommodate the surging vehicles. Informal vendors have taken over the paths meant for cyclists. Parks and green areas, which were actually embedded in the lifestyle. Walking was a reflexive way of commuting. Local markets have been taken over by malls, cinema halls by multiplexes, and parks by gyms. So all this has compounded the problems. This whole turnaround of walkable neighborhoods, fast changing to traveling farther for daily needs, is not sustainability. We leave our local neighborhood areas and we travel to a distance by car or any other public transport to get things which we can easily buy from our neighborhood market. Home delivery from the corner store on a bicycle is the most sustainable way of life. No carbon emissions, no traffic creation, and no plastic consumption. Contrasting and zooming to present times, choices we've made are wrong. So the issues of concern, what has developed now with our lifestyle is that we have traffic on the roads, we have mixed traffic. If I take an example of Saket, on the central verge, we have around 6 schools. So at the school closing hours, the road is full of children walking on the roads, mixed traffic, school buses, school vans, and there are roads with waste piled. This is a scenario in each and every neighborhood because the landfills are too far away. So by the time the waste goes from the neighborhood to the landfills, it takes time. And all the pedestrian paths, which originally about 20 years till 20 years back, people used to walk on these pedestrian paths, are now taken over by informal vendors. So here we show the proposal. This is a Saket plan only. It's decentralization and segregation of motorized and non-motorized traffic. It's a concept which can be replicated in any neighborhood. So the red peripheral roads in red are for vehicles, and internal arterial roads in yellow for pedestrian and cyclists. And these could also be kind of kept in a time zone. As example, in Amsterdam, what they are doing it now in post-pandemic, that the traffic and education departments worked together to close streets around schools in the city to ensure the students' safe arrival and departure. To give pedestrians more space, cyclists are temporarily allowed to use car lanes where speed limits have been lowered from 50 kilometers per hour to 30 kilometers per hour. Street parking and residential streets are closed to create room for terraces, pedestrians, and parking of bicycles. So I'll just show some examples, some of the best practices happening in world over. Cities such as Seattle are revitalizing underused areas in order to create vibrant social, social spaces. This is a picture which shows that how the street road was before and how they have created a public zone. So they keep experimenting, and if the experiment proves to be successful, then they make it permanent. And similarly, in Glasgow, spaces for people's program post-pandemic are responding to urgent calls for safe distancing outdoors. The city's urban planners moved quickly to convert many car parks into cycling lanes, wider sidewalks, and spaces for outdoor dining. And Glasgow also wants to create safe, less congested spaces that are designed for people rather than cars, with accessible public transport, cleaner air, and where walking and cycling will feel like the natural thing to do. And lastly, we have this example from Barcelona, where they think that walking reduces stress, anxiety, and depression, which is true because that brings the happiness index, and that's how the happiness index is measured. So how do you solve a problem like traffic, noise, and pollution in our growing cities? For the Spanish city of Barcelona, the answer could lie in the creation of super blocks, such as this one. Under the plans, the Catalan capital intends to restrict traffic to a number of big roads, creating pedestrianized small communities within the city's grid system. It is hoped that doing so could reduce traffic by 21%, as well as free up to 60% of the city's streets. So it is a similar thing to what in a Saket plan we just showed. So now, since we'll start our discussion, and I would like to first invite Mr. Ganju and to show us that what he's been working at. He has a project in Mehrauli. He's doing some work which can be a perfect start to this initiative. It can set the base for many aspects of development. I welcome you and give you space to share your experience, Mr. Ganju. You have to unmute.
Thank you, Deepika, for taking this initiative. I think it's a very good idea, because one of the things that you see, it's not that I'm just taking an initiative in Mehrauli just now, but I came to live from South Delhi, a planned colony, defense colony, to Ayanagar in the year 2000. That's about 20 years ago. And from that time, I've been working to try and create sustainable neighborhoods where I live. And so I've had a bit of experience trying to do that. So we worked in Ayanagar all these 20 years. And it's some 10 years ago, the Delhi Urban Art Commission, when Rajewal was chairman, he took an initiative to try and design parts of the city rather than simply be a regulator for design. He said, let us try and be proactive. So I got involved in working with the Delhi Urban Art Commission on how to work on neighborhoods. And we took up the case of first Ayanagar, then Ladosarai. And that is when I met Mr. Naresh Yadav, who was the MLA there. And he was extremely supportive. And, we had many meetings and discussions and all that. So this has been going on for some time. And now for the last about 6 years, I've been concentrating on Mehrauli in a big way, because the INTAT chairman wanted that, Mehrauli being so rich with with historic monuments, could become a very good case for showing how to preserve our heritage, at the same time increase tourism, etc., and showcase Mehrauli. But when we started work in Mehrauli, it was very clear that the infrastructure and the general environmental situation was very poor, and that people who are actually living in a situation where they're not even getting proper drainage, and clean public spaces are not clean, traffic is not moving in a safe manner, and people are not feeling, at all comfortable with the infrastructure, they're not going to respect their heritage. They're not going to be very worried about this. So we have been working, and Mr. Yadav, we met, and he was extremely encouraging and supportive. And Sushil Agarwal, as a result, I got talking to him, and we have jointly been trying to do something in Mehrauli. However, one thing is very clear, which I wish to put on the table first, which is that I've realized that, in urban development, and especially at the small scale, at the grassroots, you come across the work of many agencies, public agencies. I mean, there are the people who look after water supply and sewage disposal. There are people like PWD. There are agencies like DDA. There are agencies like the Archaeological Survey. There are agencies, there are a number of different agencies, the police, the transport department, all of them. And within them, there is no place for coordination. So there are many schemes which are there with the public agencies, but there is no overall coordinating agency which is doing planning. The very notion of planning in our country, I've realized with a shock and alarm, has been that there is no provision for planning below the level of the district. Up to the district, that is zonal plans, you have a mechanism in government for making plans. But when you come below the level of the district, there is no plan, there is no provision in government, there's no procedure for that. So we discussed that with Mr. Yadav. See, and he's, who is it? Can we think that the district district magistrate can be made, coordinate this? But he said that there isn't anybody, and there isn't any single agency. So he got the idea that there should be actually a separate planning board. But to make a new agency in government takes a very long time. So he kind of said, let us informally constitute a planning board, where he, asked me and Sushil Agarwal and Ruchi and Mr. Mani and various, a few people. He said, let us at least start by making an informal planning board. But unfortunately, before we could do much work, the COVID lockdown happened. So we got actually kind of seized up by this lockdown business and couldn't do very much. And so today we are having a meeting after many, many months. In the meantime, of course, we keep talking to Mr. Naresh Yadav on the phone and trying to, get some encouragement. But what we have focused on, so there are two things. One is that what we realize that unless we work essentially with the local people, that this whole business of doing anything at the neighborhood level is not only it cannot be only the mandate of government agencies. People have to be involved. Local people have to be involved, because unless they take charge of their own environment, there's very little that the government agencies can do. You see, our country is very different from the Western countries. Our population density is so high. And a place like Mehrauli, for instance, is not a planned settlement. It grew organically over a long span of time. I mean, it's, 1,000 years or more of continuous habitation. So there are many, many layers of reality in a place like Mehrauli. To understand this, no planning authority from outside, from top down, can fully appreciate all this. So we have to have people at the very center of the whole thing. People's efforts have to be absolutely central. That's one thing. Secondly, I believe that in order that all these government agencies do their work in a coordinated fashion, it is very necessary that a group of experts, like the ones we are planning to do ourselves, to provide expertise to the government agencies, but we need we need some kind of authority to do that. So Mr. Yadav, as the MLA, is trying to provide us with an authority for that, except that he's also not empowered by government to be able to do that. He's not empowered to do town planning as such, as far as I know, because, it's the DDA which has that responsibility of preparing plans. And the DDA will not, cede its authority to anybody else. So we are in a bind here. However, what we decided to do was to take up one demonstration area, one pilot project, take up one part of Mehrauli, which we thought was a very important area where the public, all people coming into Mehrauli, it was like a kind of gateway of Mehrauli. And there was a historic monument there. There was a bus stand, bus terminus in front of it. There's a park behind it. There's a park behind the bus stand. And this is the place from where you entered Mehrauli, really. Earlier, perhaps Kaluram Chowk, where there was a clock tower, was really the place of entering Mehrauli. And the bus terminus used to be there also. But now, with the increase in population, the bus terminus was moved out, and we got another sort of public area. So with this area, we thought that this is the place where we begin. If we can work with the local people and the local government agencies to create a kind of demonstration of how we can actually improve the urban environment actually by doing it. So maybe you can show on the screen now, we prepared a small, a short brochure flyer, which gives the background in drawings and diagram and text about this pilot project. And we can at least then discuss that. I'd like to show that. Can you help us put that on, Deepika? Right, the first page is helpful. We'll start from that. This is the second page. Do you have the first page also?
Deepika, you're on mute.
Can we have the first page of this as well?
Mr. Ganju, I think this is the first one I have.
Oh, really?
Is that
All right,
fine?
we'll start with that. Then we'll have to make it bigger because it's not readable. Let's start with that. Okay. Now, what this, I think where it says about, if we can increase that, if we can zoom into that, because that shows us the talks about the project as a.
Don't think so it is.
Okay,
I can't zoom it.
Mehrauli ka brochure lana hai. You can't zoom it any further?
No. It's not.
Oh, then it's not really much point. Well, let us see. The point is that Mehrauli, which is I'll just read it out to you because I've got a real copy. Isha, bita dena dena. You see, Mehrauli is a dense and active urban neighborhood of South Delhi with a very strong cultural and historical heritage for the city of Delhi. This is one of the few living heritage areas maintaining a continuity of habitation and life. Here, contemporary buildings stand together with historical ones, including a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The public space around Adam Khan's tomb, better known as Bhul Bhulaiya, connected to the main thoroughfare into Mehrauli, acts as a gateway to this heritage city. Keeping in mind the historic character of Mehrauli, coordinated action by civic agencies and the public will safeguard the heritage assets. A clear focus on community health, renewal of civic infrastructure and services, with active resident engagement is the core of this initiative. This coordinated multi-departmental approach can provide a template for local government to extend the principle of urban renewal by residents' engagement to other parts of Mehrauli and further to other areas within the Delhi NCT region. So our two main activities here, we start with community consultation. The project acts as a bridge to ensure coordination between public agencies mandated to provide civic services and the residents who are consumers of these services with the support of knowledge experts. So this is the first part, which is sort of number one on this flyer. Second part is civic improvement. Improvement of urban infrastructure will enhance upkeep of the many heritage assets present in Mehrauli and contribute to building local pride to enable better maintenance. You see, who's going to maintain this? I think unless the public is also aware of their role in that, it'll be very difficult to keep up the maintenance. Now we can go to the next page. Is there another page you have?
Yeah. This is the one.
No, after this, there's another page.
Yeah. After this.
We can't see that yet.
Deepika, we can only see the first page that you were showing initially only, the one with Qutub Minar.
Okay, so I'll just share it. This one?
Yes. Yeah. You can't increase the size of it? Okay, anyway, it starts with saying the 3 thrust areas of the proposal. Yeah, that's good. So just the top part, please. It's out of the screen at the moment. You've got to move the picture down.
Is that okay now?
Well, okay. Still, it's out of the screen. I think you better go back to your normal screen because we can't have part of it only. Okay, that's fine. So the 3 thrust areas of the proposal are, the first is heritage, which is public awareness of heritage to create a sense of history. The second is community health, local urban civic services and infrastructure. By community health, we mean health in the public domain, not just personal health, which is also important. But unless there is a health in the public domain, even keeping people at a personal level healthy is going to be very difficult. And the third area is mobility, which is urban mobility that looks beyond motorized transport. That is only motorized transport.
I think he's lost network. I think he's lost his network.
I've lost signal. So I'll carry on reading because probably you can you see the brochure, the page, the screen? Okay. Right. So in phase 1, what we want to do is to create a local improvement plan with residents, which starts with stakeholder consultation. Stakeholder consultation with residents, goes on to documentation of existing
Mr. Ganju, you've gone on mute. We can't hear you.
Okay. So I was actually describing what is phase 1 of this program. Did you hear that earlier? No.
We heard that earlier.
You heard that earlier. So we came to the 3 parts of this phase, where the stakeholder consultation, documentation of existing conditions, and generating a set of diagnostic maps, which gives us a development of a local working plan with the urban local bodies. So we must have a working plan which is also in tune with the urban local bodies, and they're part of it. So integrate local diagnostic maps and coordinate with the ASI, the DDA, the health department, the transport department, the DJB, the BSES, and DUSIP. All of these public agencies would have to need concentration, coordination. And in phase 2, we work with the urban civic agencies. This is at the bottom of the page. We've got a diagram. Perhaps, Deepika, you could at least expand this diagram, if you can, the bottom of the page, if we can see that. No, but you have to move the image up, because when you expand it, then we lose the bottom. Is that possible to do?
No, it is not happening.
Okay, then let's keep the full page on the screen. Let's keep the full page on the screen. So we work with the urban civic agencies, starting with a demonstration project. The whole idea is that if we take up a small area as a demonstration project, then we can work out something with the local community and the public bodies and demonstrate to people that it is possible to do this. And once we do this, then other parts of Mehrauli can be taken up one by one. In front of Adam Khan's tomb, there is an open area which was earlier the bus terminus. Recently, the bus terminus was moved out. And although I understand that there is a lobby within Mehrauli who want the bus terminal back here, but our idea is that the bus terminus is pretty good where it has been moved to, as long as you add some electric vehicles to bring people into the center of Mehrauli. That's a necessary feature of moving the bus terminus further back. But electrical vehicles to bring people in more conveniently rather than just walking is a necessary part of that move. But it releases this very valuable public open space, which at the moment I believe is being taken up by a mandi. And but it can be a very valuable open space because it has got the community center, community of the MCD on one side of it. It's got the Adam Khan's tomb itself is an extremely good place where people gather and which becomes a kind of going out place too, where people gather and meet and talk and do things. That corner itself, if the bus traffic is gone from there, it has become very much more, a much safer place for people. In any case, it's a very important kind of place from where people enter Mehrauli, and that can be developed. We have not made a proposal here. We have simply pointed to a place where a proposal needs to be made. Behind Adam Khan's tomb, there is Sanjay One. There is a park which can become part of a more public place. Behind the triangular park, the new community plaza that we are talking of, there is the Mehrauli Archaeological Park. So we have actually a very important part of Mehrauli, which is can function as a gateway into Mehrauli. And very near it is also an old abandoned health building, which we feel can very easily be repurposed to become a community health and information center, a kind of place where people can come. And you see, we are doing this project along with the Center for Community Knowledge in Ambedkar University. Over the years, we have been discussing with Ambedkar University, and they are very keen to be part of an initiative like this, because we feel that in order to get community to work together, it would be very helpful if academics, people who who are not estate developers, who don't have a vested interest in making profit out of property, that they will be a better way of convincing the community to work together for the improvement of the neighborhood. So, and they need a place from which would be their base. So we identified that place as a base, and that place could be. Did you have another page of that? No, you only had this page. Okay, let's forget the thing. I've explained the basic thing.
I think we're running out of time then.
Also time. So the idea is that with these, ours is Griha, which is a kind of agency which provides services for habitat design, and Ambedkar University to provide services for community mobilization and community support and information in order to keep the community together. And then, of course, we work with the local. There is also a group of local bodies which formed into an coalition called the Mehrauli Collective. These are local bodies which have formed a collective. So if they also work with us, and we have another NGO called Social Design Collaborative, which is a community-driven design, art, and research practice. to provide access to design for all through collaborative projects. Now, these several agencies have to work together if we are going to, make a project like this work. So it really requires, and this is where, for instance, the person who keeps us together and keeps us linked and working properly is, of course, Mr. Yadav, the MLA, who decided that, he would like to act as the kind of fulcrum for this exercise. So, Mr. Yadav, it's really up to you to somehow enable us to be able to take this idea forward.
So I think once we have all the panelists giving their ideas, and then perhaps we'll.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would
So
now.
I'll stop. Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ganju. Sorry, we are a bit constrained with time today. So
Indeed.
Yeah. So I would like now to invite Mr. Pavan Maini. I believe your interest, besides your professional work, lies in public services such as transportation specifically. As is seen in many neighborhoods with schools and local community centers, what would, in your view, be the best solution to, for peak time woes? Is that okay?
Sir, you're on mute. Mr. Maini? You're on mute. Yeah, now it's working.
Okay, great. I'm sorry. I was just saying that I'm struggling like with the others a bit with technology. I'm trying to do this across 2 screens. So just give me a second. Can you see the presentation?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
So, yeah. So again, yes, very passionate about mobility. I think this builds on the presentation that you made, Deepika, and Mr. Ganju. You also talked about mobility and looking beyond non-motorized transport in your, in that project. So that's what I would like to focus on. I'm going to focus on a very narrow aspect of mobility today. So briefly, what I'm going to try and just talk about, what are the things I want to talk about, just some guidelines and some example. So just some shocking numbers. And these might be commonplace to others. Some people may know about this, but India, unfortunately, is #1 in the world in the number of road deaths that happen every year. So 7% of the road deaths, and one might say that, that's not too much maybe because, as a percentage of population, we are more. But when you look at our vehicle density, it's much lower, than most other countries. So road deaths last year were about 150,000. And if I am following my numbers correctly, frankly, COVID still hasn't reached that number. And probably at an annual number, we might still be lower than the number of road deaths that that we'll have through the entire year, when of course, the whole country has been, and the whole globe has been turned upside down. So again, we are of course quite familiar with all these kinds of, photographs and the challenges that we even face, when we are trying to just access a road. So I think from a mobility perspective, I think 3 simple things that we need to consider. We need to consider different modes. Quite often we consider only cars. We need to consider motorized 2-wheelers, unmotorized, rickshaws, auto rickshaws, buses, everybody. So that's what, the different modes would mean. We need to consider different age people. In this group, I think we are at least going from somewhere in the 20s to possibly somewhere in the, I would say, 70s. And I think an easy way to consider this might be, which I've not had the time today to present, but might be to consider, say, a 10-year-old, maybe a 25-year-old, maybe somebody in the mid 40s, and maybe somebody around 70 years of age. And the different kinds of challenges they would face. And then possibly you also need to consider what is the purpose of the trip. So, as Deepika, I think you talked about, probably the most efficient way to meet a number of the purposes that we have would be either to cycle or walk to it. If I need to walk to my barber, Men's, who's at the corner of the Fortis Hospital, probably the easiest is for me to walk, which is what I do most of the time. If I want to go to my fruit and vegetable seller, who's just a bit further down that road, the best way for me is bicycling. But it's also quite dangerous the way things are around, right? So then you can look at, if you've got to go to work, you've got to go to for some recreation, what are the different purposes you're going, and you may consider different this thing. So unfortunately, most of the focus is on motorized users, and that's the problem. And even within the motorized users, it's typically only the cars that we are thinking about. So we need a rethink and implementation. So what I'm going to focus on today is a very narrow segment. It's just pedestrians. I'm going to take it down even further narrower, and I'm going to talk mainly about school children. So, there are many ways you could describe it, and I probably should have picked up the UTPEC street guidelines, which I think is better, but this is what I've got in front of you. So it typically talks, how do you design the pedestrian zone? And the pedestrian zone, you would normally have it a minimum of, I guess, 1.8 meters would be a little about close to 5.5 feet, 5.5 to 6 feet, I guess, 1.8 meters, yeah. Because I know I'm not quite 1.8 meters, and I'm shy of 6 feet. So yeah, you're talking about at least a 6-foot width for pedestrians. But after you've taken about 3 feet for a frontage zone and for furniture zone, and I think that's where we start to this thing. Now, what would you suggest would be the typical pedestrian area that is needed? That again increases or changes based on the use. So, we talked about the 6 feet, but you talk about commercial areas, you talk about shopping frontages, you talk about bus stops, you talk about high intensity commercial areas. You're talking about going up to 12 to 13 feet wide just for pedestrians. And that's not having, poles and trees and everything sticking up in the middle of it. That's the kind of area that you need. The height of the curb, 6 inches or 15 centimeters. And that's what you see, in this photographs on, say, even on the right or the one on the left where, it's maybe the curb height is not that easily visible. But if you look at the one on the right, you can see it's only 6 inches. You're not talking 12 inches or even higher is something that you will see quite commonly, anywhere here in our Mehrauli constituency. And then, of course, what you would need is something that is encumbrance free. So you don't have other things, that are impacting, the walking path. And then, you would have to have proper crossings. So that's just because you have to get from one side of the road to the other. You cannot think that, you will magically fly and get across the road. You don't provide pedestrian crossings, then people will cross, anywhere and everywhere they could. Typically, they will take the shortest path, that is available to them. So again, you're talking about typically you would typically provide not a speed bump, as they say, but a speed hump. So you go up, you stay flat for a pretty long length, and then you come down. And that's what you would provide for. So, I was just trying to look at, so one of the, and maybe from here at this stage, I'll stop the screen share and try to get into another share if I can. Just give me a second here. Okay, so I think if you can see my screen up back again, this is of course an area close to where I live, so I'm quite familiar with it. Basically, if you can see the Fortis Hospital on the screen, and then there is this government school further down over there. And so the basic idea that I want to propagate and suggest is that if we could consider that for each and every school that we have in the entire, at least Mehroli area, and maybe we look at smaller, a demonstration area, maybe a 2-3 square kilometer area first to look at, that we provide for a proper pedestrian path for 250 meters approaching it. So basically every road that was of, or any point that is 250 meters away from a school should have a proper pedestrian path leading up to the school. Just to give you a scale idea, this particular school, the government school which is there, it's about 200 meters away from the road over here on this main road that goes on to JNU. I guess it's Aruna Asaf Ali Bar, right? So, for example, my idea would be in this direction, you would take it 200 meters. You would take it for 200 meters in the other direction. You would take it till this road, and then this road you would take it 200 meters. And I think what would happen is if you would start to put a pedestrian path across 200 meters, 250 meters on each side, you would actually cover a pretty large part of the neighborhood, because thankfully we have schools scattered all over our areas. So that's really what I have this proposal that maybe we start off with a single school and then build it on from there. And the simple approach being, let's have a proper pedestrian path, 250 meters on each side. Back to you.
Great.
Deepika.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think we have to find a solution because it's a problem in each and every locality. As I said earlier, with Saket, we have around 6 schools going through the central verge. And it's the same with other localities like Vasant Vihar. Offhand, I can think of very quickly, GK2 is like that, Alaknanda is that. So at any point when the peak hours, when the school closes and if you are stuck, it's a mixed traffic. The children are walking on the roads, there are buses, there are vans, everything comes to a standstill. So I think one model which one could, do and then replicate in other areas.
And sorry, just to take a 10-second pitch to our respected MLA Naresh Yadav ji. Given that PWD and schools both come under the, our government, I think this should be hopefully something where we can put the 2 and 2 together and make actually not 5 but 22.
So yeah, I think, would you like to answer, Mr. Yadav, or we come back after looking at all the ideas?
बेटर मुझे लगता है ऐसा हुआ कि एक बार सब लोगों की बातें सुन
देख ले, हाँ जी,
एक बार फाइनली डिस्कशन कर लेंगे।
हाँ जी,
सुशील जी, आप जो है सारी पूरी जो डिस्कशन हो रही है ना, उसके जो भी मतलब मेरे लायक जो काम होंगे ना, उनको आप नोट कर लेना, क्योंकि सुशील जी हम पूरे इसका एक कोऑर्डिनेशन वो कर रहे हैं, कोऑर्डिनेटर हमारे हैं जो सारा सब कुछ देख रहे हैं एमएलए की तरफ से। तो जो भी मेरे लायक काम होगा वो मैं, गंजू साहब तो जानते ही हैं, मैं तो एडवांस में हाँ करता हूँ कि जो काम सरकार के हों या एमएलए के हों, जो मैं कर सकता हूँ, जो मेरी पावर में, उसके लिए तो मैं हमेशा, मेरी हाँ होती है और सपोर्ट होती है हमेशा। तो एक बार सब लोगों की राय देख लें, सब लोगों के से सुन लें, फिर उसके बाद एक बार फाइनली मैं बात करूँ।
हाँ जी, थैंक यू। So, Mr. Sushil Agarwal, आपके पास आते हैं. So, you have been spearheading RWA works for a long time and are also passionate about inclusivity. The time I spoke to you, you were very vocal about that. So, please share your ideas for the same, for a model retrofitted sustainable neighborhood. I know it's possible in kind of societies, but what do you think can be specific for row housing gated communities? And for example, in Saket, where we live in row housing, so we all our support system comes from, say, Kanpur or this area. So what are your views on that? Like what's the new idea you would like to?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. You see, with sustainability, what I understand is that the environment should be friendly, the people should be happy, the area should be affordable, it should be comfortable, and one should be able to progressively continue it. It should not be a short-lived proposition. It should be a proposition which, or a development, or an area which progresses further, which generates itself, which is self-generating. So that is how I interpret sustainability. And when you say neighborhood, I would say an area which affects me. The area which influences me is my neighborhood.
True.
So if I start interpreting these two words, which are very important words in our vocabulary today, I would start with the factors which really constitute the sustainability part of it, which is the one starts with the sense of security, one starts with actual security, the safety of the people, the hygiene of the community, and the connectivity part of it. So if I look at any of these, there are two major actors in this. One major actor is the government, the governing bodies. And in our democratic setup, the government bodies and the governance looks up to the people. Like people, since they vote, they become very important component for the people in power. And apart from that, it is the people who are the stakeholders. So to include them effectively and to involve them is something which a democratic setup has to adopt. Otherwise, any attempt, any venture does not really succeed. It doesn't sustain itself. It is a short-lived imposition on the people. If a planner imposes that, no, this area needs to be pedestrian only, and if people don't agree with him, and if people feel, no, it cannot work, then it doesn't work for a very long time. If you have read a recent report on Ajmal Khan Road, which was pedestrianized, and initially it was a very successful attempt. And you see, I started my practice in 86 from Karol Bagh. And since that time, we used to feel that why should Ajmal Khan Road have the vehicles? It shouldn't have the vehicles. But still, when you pedestrianize it and you don't involve people, you impose them, this aspect on them, it doesn't work. In Connaught Place, NDMC has been trying to pedestrianize the area for certain hours of the day. But the shopkeepers have certain fears. They have got certain perceptions, which does not allow NDMC to adopt this policy. So in the urban context where we live, which has got a great diversity of cultures, a diversity of income, religion, profession, and age groups, we have to actually form a process which Mr. Ganju is propagating and trying to come out with some pilot and some example for the authorities and for the people to follow, where this entire process leads to some kind of a preposition. Your preposition is not a premeditated preposition. It is not something which I decide on the drawing board and say that I have to lead people to this. No, I have to involve people first, check out on the perceptions and ideas which I have, test them on the ground, and evolve according to the overall situation and come up with a proposition. Then only it would work in phases. Now, to elaborate it further, I would cite my little work which I have been involved in. through Mr. Naresh Yadav was for this particular road, which I talked about, from Andheria Mode to Fortis. Now, on road, this road was to be one of the widest roads in Delhi. It had 6 lanes on either side, provision for the 4th lane on either side, with cycle tracks, with green belts, with service road. 104-meter wide road. This road was to replace a road which was in a...
Good morning, handsome. Bada
Sorry.
handsome lag raha hai. Arul, good morning.
So, okay, I'm sorry. So this particular proposition was being challenged by many people, and the court had not less than 20 cases against it on one pretext or the other, on the trees issue, on something or the other. And this was not happening. So when we got involved, we looked at the plan and we looked at the apprehensions which people had. And there were a number of findings which I was surprised to find. The road was superimposed, was it was laid on a plan area in the plan, which was very different from the area on the ground. The ground had so many important issues which were absent on the survey drawing itself. They were like, these roads were going so close to the people houses, and we were constructing service road over service road. We were constructing green belt over green belts. The cycle tracks were like, the edges were not addressed at all, and people would naturally have a lot of grievances, a lot of fears. And once we superimposed the two, we came out with very exciting propositions that you can have your walking areas within the green belt. You can walk through the green belts. You can create a cycle track which passes through green area. Why do you need to cut all these trees? You don't need to cut those trees. You don't have to construct another service road where you already have a service road. And those service roads, trust me, will not work. We have so many examples in Vasant Kunj where we have a service road, but that service road is not functional at all. It's only left to the garbage and vendors to encroach those areas. So what happens is, you see, the basic detailing work, the basic drawing work is not done in a very great detail. And we exclude people out of it. We don't listen to them. We feel that एक naturally एक resistance तो आएगा ही. आप कुछ भी करेंगे, कुछ लोग बोलेंगे. That is the natural understanding we have. कि कुछ लोग तो against खड़े होंगे ही. तो हम ये मानकर चलते हैं कि ये तो डेमोक्रेसी में आपको एक opposition party को face करना ही है. But you see, at times, and most of the times, they may express their concerns in a very aggressive language, but they have a point. And if you listen to them, you can bring them along with you. And that is what we did. We made a very elaborate presentation in community center where Mr. Yadav's office is next door. And we called all the RWA representatives there. And we explained what this road is about and what these service lanes are about. And after the presentation, we all were surprised. People clapped. They were happy. And they said, we never knew that this can be done like this. That was the first challenge which we addressed and we resolved to a large extent. Thereafter, there was no coordination between the agencies. You are constructing such a huge, investing so much of public money. But the basic premise of this work was that हम रोड बनाते हैं, पीछे पीछे काटते चलते हैं. आपने रोड डाली, पीछे दिल्ली जल बोर्ड आके काट देगा. Thereafter, metro आके काट देगी, and people will start laying their services. So our attempt was to organize all these services in advance. I thought it is already being done. So I asked these people to produce plans. None of them had any plan. They said, hai. I said, kahan hai? He took out a folded paper from his pocket and he said, ye raha. I said, this is not the way it works. You have to lay it on the drawing. and give me the timelines. Okay, when will you remove this 66 kVA line, a pole which is lying right in the center of the road? The road cannot be made unless and until you have this huge pylon removed from the road. Now, you see, likewise, we started discovering so many issues which needed to be addressed before we start constructing the road itself. And that 66 kVA line took an expense of 22 crores and full 1.5 years to get implemented. And it was only after that the road became operational. Otherwise, we would have constructed a road and BACS would have come with Favda and JCB to dig it. So these
So
are
lessons. So these
lessons.
are the lessons to be learned.
Yes. And a very important aspect that whatever we do here, we listen to everybody, whether he belongs to any party or any section, and we try to extract content from his whatever he is saying. And trust me, if you listen to somebody considerably, like with sympathetic ears, he will definitely support you, because everybody here respects honesty. Everybody respects your genuine intention. People oppose you because they suspect. They always suspect कि आपका कोई और एजेंडा है, इसलिए आपको अपने घर के सामने वो चाहिए, diversion चाहिए, इसलिए आप ये कर रहे हैं. And you see, in the end, what happens is a planner makes something, you make something, but it cannot be implemented because daily traffic police will not like your plan and they will not divert the traffic the way you want them to divert. They will put their red lightings, their traffic lights at wrong or their own convenient points, and your plan would fail. That means you have failed to include the traffic police, which is a very important component or aspect. So this is something which I just thought that this is a platform where we may make beautiful plans. We may have very exotic dreams, and we may project lovely photographs. We may look at Europe, but India will have to have its own solutions. Those solutions will have to come from the ground, come from the वो समुद्र मंथन आपको करना पड़ेगा, तब निकल के आएंगे. हम टेबल पे बैठ के नहीं बना सकते. This is what my intention is.
Yeah, thank you so much. But this experience kind of teaches us for the next level that before we start anything, we have to go through all the agencies and involve everyone. So that's why in the beginning I said that citizens have to be involved. You have to have their share of ideas in that.
Right.
So I think we'll move on over to you, Ruchi, with the social innovation and compassion as drivers in your children-centric approach, I would say. What is the one-size-fit-all solution to the neighborhoods with schools running in the central verge? As Mr. Mani, I was telling him that Vasant Vihar, Vasant Kund, Saket, GK2, Alaknanda, how we can solve this issue and replicate in each and every neighborhood. So let's hear from you.
Thank you, Deepika. I just want to say मैं इतनी भी young नहीं हूँ. मेरे को 15 साल हो गए हैं काम करते हुए इन्हीं सभी issues में. I have the whole thing was I was doing streets all over the world and doing neighborhood planning for everybody else. और अपने ही वसंत कुंज मेहरौली वार्ड के लिए हम कुछ नहीं कर रहे थे. And I just took a leap in 2018. So मैं उस time से I want to show you what has been done. And Sir is here and he has actually changed my own perception of how change can happen quickly. Agar decision makers, they are active and they can change. So I'll just go through very quickly what prompted me. And Mr. Mani, you will be happily surprised that this is all about your dream, which has already been, happening. So here I go. So the idea for me, जब हम मोहल्लों की बात करते हैं या neighborhoods की बात करते हैं, for me it's all about हमारी कहानियाँ, हमारे stories, हमारे पान वाले uncle, and I came here in Vasant Kunj when I was in class 5. I have gone to school from here, and I have, spent most of the time in my neighborhood. और यहीं से हमारी कहानियां शुरू होती है, हमारा परसेप्शन शुरू होता है कि how we will be relating to one another. And so in this everyday life, if I want to see what is happening today for children, I see that as soon as they leave from home and they're into their urban spaces, if at all their parents let them to go away for a little distance, they are exposed to toxic air. They are constantly seeing these lack of green spaces, birds nahi sunai de rahi. They are constantly subjected to honking and noise. And पूरे time रस्तों पे they feel a constant sense of fear and hostility. और अगर आप पिछड़े backgrounds के हैं तो already ये आपके ऊपर एक all the more detrimental effect डालता है. So the whole idea was for me is definitely better infrastructure, better design. But more importantly for me it was if people are exposed, young people are exposed to this hostility, जिसे हम violent communication भी कहते हैं, जो आप जबरदस्ती नहीं कर रहे हैं, but ये अपने आप हो रहा है because of poor planning and design, then what kind of human beings will we become? Road rage, aggression, high BP, obesity, ये सब आज are our modern day health issues. So therefore, for me, it is all linked to your everyday lifestyle and the people we become. But at the ground of it, while Mr. Many had shown road safety statistics, it should be concerning to us that 45 children are dying daily due to road accidents out of that large number. Amsterdam में one child died and they changed their whole country's road in 1970s. 1970s में उनकी सड़कें हमारी जैसी दिखती थी, लेकिन अभी हमारी स्टेटिस्टिक्स ये हैं कि 45, दैट मींस 1 क्लासरूम अ डे इज गोइंग अवे. जहां हमारा गवर्नमेंट एजुकेशन को स्ट्रॉन्ग करना लगा है, जो एजुकेशन जाएंगे वही एक एक पूरा क्लास एवरीडे एलिमिनेट हो रहा है. द सेकंड पार्ट इज इन टर्म्स ऑफ नंबर्स आल्सो देयर आर अबाउट 34% ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन व्हिच इज बिलो 18. सो क्या उनको हक नहीं मिलना चाहिए टू बी पार्ट ऑफ द चेंज? And the third is, while everybody is concerned of safety as a community need, why are we so normalized of what, मतलब जैसे फुटपाथ ऊंचे हो गए, why are we so normalized? या जैसे अभी coordination की बात हो रही थी. So we need to break this chain because already, mothers are also concerned कि their children are like smoking 7 cigarettes a day. हमारे मोस्टली हमारी पॉपुलेशन अगर आप स्टेटिस्टिक्स देखें सो अफोर्डेबिलिटी के बेसिस पे ट्रैवल करती है, चॉइस के बेसिस पे नहीं. हेंस दे वॉक एंड साइकिल मोर. ऑल्सो विमेन वॉक मोर बिकॉज द मेन टेक द व्हीकल. तो देयर इज अ डिमेंशन व्हिच द चाइल्ड कीप्स लुकिंग एट, एंड व्हेन यू टॉक टू देम, एंड ये सब हमारे वसंत कुंज के ही बच्चे हैं हु आई कीप टॉकिंग व्हेनेवर आई गो आउट एंड आई सी सम ऑफ देम लाइक कीपली everything is related to emotions for them. कि उन्हें डर लगता है, उनको स्कूल जाना है लेकिन वो डर के जाएंगे. विलेजेस से आते हैं तो ऐसे लगता है कि वहां पे कार्स और सेफ्टी है, यहाँ कार्स अनसेफ से है. प्लस दे वांट टू यूज द नेबरहुड मोर, लेकिन बिकॉज द डिजाइन इज समथिंग व्हिच इज लिमिटिंग देयर चाइल्डहुड, दे हैव नॉट बीन आस्क्ड टू लाइक गो अवे, गो फर्दर. तो अल्टीमेटली जो मुझे दिखता है कि वी हैव अर्बन नेबरहुड्स. Children have been recognized as invisibles mostly. They all have equal dreams. चाहे वो स्कूल जाने वाले हैं या एक फुटपाथ स्कूल पे पढ़ रहे हैं, but they have unequal spaces. And for us and for me, like our main mission is now to build back better. चाहे आप कोई भी project कर रहे हो with children. And the reason for it is because these projects take time. And when these take time, they also understand that they have to be invested in change. एंड तब तक वो जब ये लंबे प्रोजेक्ट्स में they'll be भागीदार, मतलब भागीदारी होगी इनकी, तो 18 साल तक they'll become people who really want to make bigger change in their communities and they'll stay. So I started with this program called Crosswalk. Crosswalk आपकी literal zebra crossing होती है, black and white, जो सेफ्टी का साइन होता है, लेकिन हम वो भी नहीं देखते हैं सड़कों पे. And this is usually what the children also identify as a safety का symbol. So I started this program Crosswalk in 2018 as a Dalai Lama fellow, where I wanted to co-create safe and democratized access to school. और इसमें यही होता है कि जब हम बच्चों से पूछते हैं, and this comes somewhere in our workshop, we have a compassionate action program for every school because we are asking that school child designs their own street ताकि ownership बढ़े उसकी. And we hear such statements which really set me back when they say they feel close to death when they come to school. And obviously हम सोचते हैं बच्चे हैं, but children have huge wisdom. They don't need to be transport planners to tell us that, you know, nobody will be roaming on street when there would be more cars which go faster. Neighborhoods have to be designed for 30 km/h. It is now that we are trying to change certain streets as high speed roads, but ठीक है, वो high speed roads उतनी ही रहे. बाकी most of our neighborhood roads are 30 से 15 km/h or lower. Most of our neighborhood अंदर की roads are जिसमें हम speed breakers लगा देते हैं, जो SDMC के अंदर है, वो 18 मीटर के low हैं, तो they have to be below 15 km/h. But when I do these workshops, and it's a set of 9 workshops, so एक proper curriculum है, जिसे I'm trying to make it an extension of the happiness curriculum, ongoing happiness curriculum, जिसमें they tell you like what changes do they want to see. They draw for you, and these are not abstract drawings. These are actually drawings जो PhD researchers use करते हैं. Mental mapping एक technique है. So this is what we bring to children and ask them, and then we ask them to actually add emotions. कहाँ उनको happy लग रहा है, कहाँ sad लग रहा है. And most of it is जहाँ पे junctions होते हैं उनको sad लगता है, जहाँ पे park होता है वगैरह, तो उनको happy लगता है. But what mostly happens is we tell them to make a shopping list. We tell them कि आप बताइए आपको क्या अच्छा लगता है और क्या नहीं. And there are many things जो अच्छा लगता है, including a seat for their mother, because Reddy का son बहुत strong है. They kind of put it so beautifully कि we get our design proposal start ready. So and we tell them to design. So इस स्कूल में जैसे ये DAV स्कूल का स्ट्रीट है जो अभी पवन सर दिखा रहे थे, इनका बहुत ही सिंपल रूल था, एक स्कूल गेट मतलब एक zebra crossing, and it is not difficult to do. They wanted trees next to it, they want to hear birds, they want to say कि यहाँ पे सब लोग slow हो या आए ना कोई बीच में जब school hours चल रहा है. And then they become this whole tight proposal जिसमें they said कि गाड़ियाँ खड़ी भी कैसे रहनी चाहिए. So you know the angle of the car, the toilet block, because they've seen people open defecating. They want policemen or volunteers to, you know, stop the high speeding cars, and little details start coming. They want to see disabled signs for their friends who are their classmates who need disabled parking, they need tactile flooring, all of these are there. So what we did is something which you see now in front of DAV school has been converted into a 250 meter of happiness project. And why happiness? Because it literally brought everybody together as a community, and the children led the process. So what happened in this process was, after the proposal was converted, we made it as an exhibition, and हमने voting करवाई. पहले हमने school में voting करवाई, उसको एक democratic process रखने के लिए suggestions लिए, अगर senior children को कुछ और चाहिए, and we wrote them down. Then we took it to the school parents first of all, and the school parents also did the same process and they voted. After that, we took it to the alumni, ताकि they are helping us as collaborators and support us for the project. और धीरे-धीरे, once all of this groundwork was done, we called our MLA sir, and I'm so happy that in 2 hours, this proposal, he endorsed it. It was with the school, it was with the RWA. This was exactly a year back. And after that, we started working with the government machinery. So the PWD came with us, and this is Avni, who lives in B2. She came for her exhibition, and as a teenager, she said, I want to support the project, and she joined our team to help us work. So how, from the children who are inside the school, the project started bringing children outside the school, and we started developing details. The public works department, हम लोग usually देख नहीं पाते how, you know, importantly they keep working in a focused manner, and we were able to document this whole process because it is a collective process. And this is the final drawing which has been submitted to the government. It is actually a 7,000 square meter space designed and led by children. It has cycle tracks, it has footpaths, it has signages, it has everything which the children asked. It has a linear park for the community, ताकि evening में neighboring blocks किशनगढ़ के बच्चे जो हमारे classroom में थे, उन्होंने बोला अगर यहाँ पे हमारी sitting इस तरह से हो कि वो table chair की तरह हो, तो हम रात को आके यहाँ पे पढ़ेंगे. So a street which is right now dead and desolated becomes extremely participatory and extremely community driven in the hold from morning as school and in evening as the community space. And not only that, we touched upon the sustainable development goals. We understood what impact it could bring. We formed 50 change agents within this school, and the whole school is standing behind it. The children are more interested to do other things in the neighborhood now. What more are we doing? So once they have got a sense of belonging, once they have got a sense of voice, they will want to keep changing the neighborhood if the community of elders are behind it. And what we have been able to see is, while with this one project, we have been able to do all these, like the impact is really high because वहाँ पे 4 स्कूल है. एक स्कूल के साथ काम करने से हम 4 स्कूल्स की everyday journey बदल पाए. We've been able to impact about 10,000 children once this project gets implemented. And what happens then is that the whole world started watching our project. So I have been actually taking this project everywhere. So New York Times recently invited us, Greenpeace, and everybody is asking us. But the most important thing is, ये हमने collectively submit किया था December 2019 में. And February 2020, we got the global award in the World Urban Forum out of 106 global projects कि ये एक ऐसा project है जो health, human rights और sustainable development goals को आगे बढ़ाता है. And so I just say that this is not what we needed. We wanted to see this happiness with the same child who had written that letter. This is his mother sending me a picture at 12 in the night when we got this award. And this is the same happiness we want to see across children in our neighborhood, because they have a right, they have to feel equal, and they should feel dignified. And then only when we become adults, we will be contributing more, and many of our social problems might get mitigated. So our route right now is we are going via schools to neighborhoods. So we've already mapped different schools we have in Vasant Kunj and the ward, and we want to now like move forward as doing cluster projects with sir. And then we can एक ward को एक model बनाया, so we can obviously show how different wards can actually adopt it. And this is children leading the process where the whole community is behind. So where I come from is, my whole idea is, like, can we build a world where no child is small but equal? And are we ready to build trust, which is one thing which I've recognized एक deficit में चल रहा है. Safety, definitely, or shared purpose. Ki we want to create a world with happiness. Truly, I believe in ki a person is person no matter how small they are. And I'm extremely thankful कि sir भी हैं यहाँ पे, that he kind of accelerated this process itna strong ki now the whole world is waiting. When are you coming to our city? When are you doing it here? So hopefully we take it forward. I'll stop here, Deepika.
Thank you so much, Ruchi. And it's a wonderful idea, and I'm sure it can be done in each and every neighborhood. So with Mr. Yadav's help, perhaps we can do in Saket as well, where we have 6 schools or more than 6 schools in one row. They are one after the other on that central board. So it's
I have mapped those also. I know what you're talking about. I'm all ready for sir actually whenever we meet him.
Yeah. So thank you so much. And now we've seen solutions to some major issues of practically every neighborhood. Kinshuk, it's your turn now. You are the youngest, so with your interest, it lies in correlating people's behavior to the planning and its impact on urban environment. Please share how you reimagine the neighborhood with a new, young vision. Let's have
Thank you, Deepika. Thank you to all the speakers who've come before. As Deepika rightly pointed out, I think I'm the youngest speaker here. So everybody who's spoken before has put some very pertinent points. What I'm just going to try and do is, since the idea of the webinar was to have a model, I'll just probably present a macro picture of what everyone has said and through what I have experienced in different cities, not just in India, but around the world. Is my screen visible? There's a presentation going on the screen. I'm not sure if that is visible.
Only the folder is there. I think you need to share this, change the screen.
Yeah, now it should be visible.
Yep.
Right. So it's no surprise that everyone's talked about social behavior, how people need to be involved, and institutions. Essentially, sustainability has 4 pillars or 4 cornerstones. Everybody knows about environment, life resources, energy, water, air. Then, of course, there's society, which everybody has talked about. Diversity, our society is very diverse, but equity, coherence, collaboration, so how people cannot work together, how healthy people are, what is their lifestyle, those kind of things. We look at economy, of course. Sustainable economy is slightly different from the consumption-based economy that we are in right now. We'll leave that for a later discussion. And of course, institutional. So this is something that people are now starting to look at it, how powerful your institutions are, how much trust they enjoy in the community, what is the strength of their governance, how much they engage with the community. So when we talk of sustainable neighborhoods, as all the speakers have pointed out before, it's primarily the social sustainability and institution that we look at. I think Ruchi explained it very beautifully in what she has done. She has actually bridged the gap between the people and the institution with Mr. Yadav. So taking that road, the UN came out with its sustainable goals about 4 years back, and it's no surprise that people are talking of social and institutional, because even the UN recognized that social sustainability is more important for you to have environmental sustainability, and probably 10 of their 17 goals were to do with social agendas. So now, why are we talking of social sustainability so much, especially in our context, and how do we perceive our society? See, our society, as I have read the society in 30 years of my existence. Security and privacy are the 2 main parameters that we judge our society by. Everybody wants security, everybody wants privacy, and we try and achieve that through ownership, right? We feel safe and private in spaces that we physically own. So we continuously want to mark our territories. जो हमारा अपना है वो safe है, जो हमारा अपना है हम उसको साफ रखेंगे, जो हमारा अपना है, that's us. And what lies outside that territory is the responsibility of the authority, right? And that essentially comes from a deficit of trust, as everybody has pointed out. And what that gives us is images like these. You have atrocious looking boundary walls all over the city. What do people do on boundary walls, right? They spit on boundary walls, they pee on boundary walls, they will put up dirty posters on boundary walls, and you don't know what is happening behind or in front of those. So this is exactly opposite of what should be happening in neighborhoods or in a society at large. Your neighborhood should be permeable. Let people move through neighborhoods. What is the problem? People are not doing anything, right? Why should one feel more safe and secure in an empty street over a street which is busy? I think Ruchi just said that the whole objective of the exercise was to make a dead street active. Why is that? Because active streets are inherently more safe. So have free movement. People make each other safe. If people are watching each other every time, all the time, if people are just looking at what is happening on the street, there's nothing safer than that. And if I am using a street every day in and out, I'm more likely to keep it clean rather than, if I'm walking by on a street probably once in a blue moon, I wouldn't care. And that, of course, frees up all the space from the cars, right? It reduces commutes. So you don't have to travel half an hour to get milk. You don't have to travel half an hour in a car to reach your nearest clinic, right? It democratizes space. You reduce commutes, you bring everything in walkable, cyclable distances. I think Mr. Mehni also pointed that out, that distances are the problem. So you need to have everything within walkable range. the more activities that are happening, the more people are walking, you have more eyes on the street. And this is a very important concept in urban planning, that people are watching the streets, and that in itself is making streets safer. Imagine you have a camera, and having a CCTV camera on a street makes you feel safe, right? Why is that? Because you feel that there is somebody behind the camera who's watching you. Now imagine if that person was right there watching you, not through a camera. Why should you have people watching you through a camera when they can be there watching you by themselves, right? Spaces belong to everyone. When people are walking on the streets, people are using those streets, they have a sense of ownership with the streets, right? You give them back to people, take them away from cars. I think this is one image that all of us are very friendly with. At night, you walk around and you see these images all the time. You have a street and you have lit up. Okay, it's lit up, but what is it doing for you? It's not doing anything. It's a dead street. These are essentially urban dark spots. And we all go to other European cities. We all go to these fancy places where we see, at night, the street is active, restaurants have spilled over, and, you feel super excited, oh, so much is happening. But why are you against all of that happening in your own neighborhood? I think that stems from the fact that you don't see safety and security in coherence. You see safety and security in privacy and ownership. I think that lies at the heart of the problem that we have. So active is space. No space in the city should be disowned. This has come from my personal experience. Since I've traveled abroad, I've lived abroad, I've studied abroad, I've done research work abroad, and that has forced me to sort of introspect on what makes those societies different from us. And I think this is the core, that we don't own our city. We own our homes. It will extend to owning our own residential colonies, again, which is inside a gate. But the moment you step out, you don't own it. It's the property of the authorities. It's not my responsibility to look after that. Why should I look after that? The authority is going to look after that. And I think that is where we falter. People don't want to engage with initiatives because they don't feel ownership, right? Even Ruchi pointed this out, that with the kids, they feel that the street belongs to them. That is why they participate. If people are not owning those streets up, then they will not participate. They will just leave it to someone else. So democratizing space, and this is not just, it's not coming from the people themselves. I'm a stern believer in nudge policies and behavioral change. I think our policy frameworks, planning policy frameworks, have reinforced these ideas for a long time. I think these should change. It's a to and fro approach, and it's a story of chicken and egg. Kaun pehle karega, right? But I think both have to make that leap of faith. So let people work where they live. Why do we want to restrict that? If I have my office right below where I live, I don't have to travel. I don't need my car to travel 30 kilometers every day. I will get rid of it. If I can walk 10 minutes and get my milk, get my eggs, if I can just walk 15 minutes and access the closest doctor when I need it, I don't need a car. Why will I keep a car? Right? Let there be commercial areas in residential colonies. It's an inhibition that people are just not able to get over. That people feel that commercial activity hoga, log aayenge, disturbance hoga, ye hoga, insecurity hogi, but that's not the case, right? It takes time. Cities adapt, people adapt. But when there is activity, people learn to respect other people, right? Let people walk and cycle through colonies. Why should colonies put up gates? And this is coming from my personal experience. So right in the colony where I live, when we moved here back in late 1990s, there were two colonies. I used to get off from my school bus on the main road, and I used to walk through one colony and get to my home. It used to be a 15-minute walk. But now wo colony ne apne gates band kar diye. So I can't walk through that colony. I have to take a longer detour, which has made my commute from the same place from 20 minutes to about 40 minutes. It's a massive inconvenience. And why do they do that? They think it's safer to not let people walk through their colony. So that approach essentially needs to change. Let activities go on for longer hours. I think We've recently seen this. The Delhi government has allowed restaurants to run for 24 hours. I think it's a very good move, because the longer that your streets and your cities are active, the safer they're going to be, because the biggest problem at night that people face is that sunsaan ho jati hai sadkein. Areas are just dead. I think that's a big problem. And what all of that does is just leave space open for people over parked cars. So once all of that is happening, I think these things to a great extent shape our perception of our neighborhood and our environment. Once these small changes start taking shape, we look at our neighborhood and our environment differently. So people will get a sense of ownership, and that brings in some sort of conscientiousness in people. So they will become more conscious of where they litter. They will become more conscious of, resource usage. They will become more conscious of cars being a problem. They will take greater initiative to participate in community projects. Right now, all people do is they pitch in. I think people who have been doing work in the colonies, they know this very well, that first reaction of people is to just be apprehensive about whatever is happening. If they own the spaces, if they own every bit of the city, they will have ideas. They will not come up with problems, they will come up with solutions. Right? It's less of someone else's responsibility, more of my own. And it's just a more positive outlook towards your city, towards everyone else who's living in the city. I think so. In essence, this is what I have observed, that everybody is aware, but people are not concerned. There is a bunch of people who are concerned, the people who are taking action, but the masses out there, they know what is the problem, but they're not concerned. Everybody's just concerned about their own safety, their own privacy, which in itself is a faltered perception. So why should action be someone else's job? So yeah, that's my perspective. Just open the city up, let people go through, let there be accessibility, democratize the city.
Thank you. Thank you, Ganshu. So thank you, everyone. So it was a very nice discussion and good ideas. So we come back to Mr. Yadav now to enlighten us that how आप इसमें कैसे आगे
सबसे पहले सभी को मेरा नमस्कार। किंशु जी, मैं आपको अभी सुन ही रहा था, बहुत अच्छा आपने प्रेजेंटेशन दिया, सारी चीजें बड़े अच्छे से बताई है सभी लोगों ने। मैनी साहब तो हमारे एक्सपर्ट ही हैं रोड्स ट्रांसपोर्ट के लिए सारा। रुचि जी ने बहुत शानदार एक प्लानिंग हमें दी थी, जो स्कूल के लिए एक मॉडल स्ट्रीट बनाने के लिए, जो ऑलरेडी हमारी पाइपलाइन में है। और हमारे सुशील अग्रवाल जी ने तो आपके सामने प्रैक्टिकली दिखाया है, जो अंधेरिया मोड़ से 40s वाला जो रोड आज प्रैक्टिकली हम लोग चल रहे हैं, उस पे धूल मिट्टी नहीं है, कितने अच्छे पेड़ लगे हैं, वो सब सुशील अग्रवाल जी की वजह से। इन्होंने बहुत ही माइन्यूटली उस पे डिटेल वर्किंग की है, और सारे पीडब्ल्यूडी के अधिकारियों से, मंत्री जी से, सभी से इन्होंने लगातार मीटिंग मेरे साथ जाके की है। मैं एक तरह से वो प्लेटफॉर्म दे रहा था सरकार की तरफ से या एमएलए की तरफ से, लेकिन एक्चुअल में काम करने वाले जैसे सुशील अग्रवाल जी थे उस समय। और उसके बाद में मैं मुलाकात मेरी गंजू साहब से हुई। गंजू साहब अभी पिक्चर में दिख नहीं रहे मुझे। गंजू साहब ने फिर मुझे लाडो सराय का एक प्लान दिखाया, और जिसकी वजह से मैं गंजू साहब से भी बहुत इम्प्रेस हुआ कि इन्होंने बहुत वर्किंग कर रखी थी। और उसके बाद में सुशील अग्रवाल जी और गंजू साहब का भी वो प्लान मैंने मुख्यमंत्री साहब के सामने रखा, जब वो हमारी रिव्यू मीटिंग करते थे हर 15 दिन में। तो ही वॉज वेरी इम्प्रेस्ड मेरे से हुए। हालांकि मेरी क्या वर्किंग थी, वर्किंग तो सुशील अग्रवाल जी की और गंजू साहब की थी। तो मैंने उनको बताया कि हमारा जितना भी एरिया है उसमें हम अलग अलग लोकेलिटी वाइज एक प्लानिंग कर रहे हैं। तो वो प्लानिंग मुझे, जैसे सुशील अग्रवाल जी ने और गंजू साहब ने बाकायदा अपने जितने भी इनके ऑफिसेज का पूरा सिस्टम को इस्तेमाल करते हुए बाकायदा मैप्स पे प्रिंट आउट करके, और एक प्रेजेंटेशन इन्होंने बहुत शानदार मेरे लिए बनाया, जो मैंने सीएम साहब के सामने प्रेजेंट किया। और वो बहुत इंप्रेस हुए थे मुझसे कि भाई बहुत अच्छी तरह से आप लोग काम कर रहे हैं। और खासकर जैसे प्रोफेशनल्स लोगों को देख के तो वो वैसे ही बड़े इंप्रेस हो जाते हैं। हमारे आप जानते हैं मुख्यमंत्री साहब एक मतलब ब्यूरोक्रेसी से हैं और IRS रिटायर्ड हुए, तो उनको तो मतलब ये चीजें बहुत पसंद भी हैं। और एक उनका विजन भी है दिल्ली के लिए ना, बहुत बड़ा विजन है। बहुत सारी डिफिकल्टीज हैं प्रैक्टिकली जब हम लोग देख रहे हैं तो, लेकिन फिर भी हम उस विजन पे धीरे धीरे आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। जैसे हमारा ये रोड हमारा इन प्रैक्टिकल सक्सेस हुआ। सुशील जी आप तो देखो, आपको पता ही है कितनी हर्डल्स आई थी, सुशील जी ने भी जिक्र किया कि कोर्ट केसेस थे, RWS सब आपस में लड़ रही थी, कोई सहमत होने के लिए तैयार नहीं था। कोई कहता 75 मीटर करो, कोई कहता है कम करो, कोई कहता है, अलग अलग तरह के विचार थे। उनको सबको एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे ला के उनको सबको करके, और सुशील जी ने मतलब इसमें बड़ा काम मेहनत की थी। और आज एक्चुअल में अभी मैं जब निकलता हूँ ना वहां से, और वो जो ग्रीनरी देखता हूँ और जो पेड़ थोड़े ग्रो हो गए हैं, बड़ा अच्छा लगता है कि हाँ चलो ये चीज हुआ। एक पैच हमारा 600 मीटर का बचा हुआ है अंधेरे टेन्योर पे, कि वो कुछ लैंड जो प्राइवेट लैंड है उसको एक्वायर करें, इस रोड को वो हम लोग कंप्लीट करें। और 40 से लेके हम आगे तक भी, जैसे स्पाइनल इंजरी तक मेरी कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी है, उसके बाद महिपालपुर है, उस पर भी हम लोग काम करेंगे। ओवरऑल आप लोगों ने सभी ने बहुत अच्छी बातें सारी हम लोगों ने आज डिस्कशन की है। मेरा क्या रोल है इसमें? मेरा रोल है कि मैं आप लोगों को एक प्लेटफॉर्म दूं, आप लोगों को काम करने का एक मौका दूं, और
We've lost him, or
Maybe he dropped out.
maybe the network.
Hopefully he should be back in a minute or so.
Yeah, he is there. आपका म्यूट है आप।
कनेक्शन बीच में कट गया था अचानक ना।
हाँ जी, हाँ जी।
तो हम लोग ऐसा करते हैं, जैसे हम लोगों ने मैनी साहब, रुचि जी आप भी आए थे, गंजू साहब भी थे, हमने अपना एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी का एक प्लानिंग बोर्ड बनाया है, और उस बोर्ड में हम लोगों ने 1-2 मीटिंग पहले की भी है, अधिकारियों को भी बुलाया है, PWD के अधिकारी कुछ आए थे। तो हम उस बोर्ड की एक तो हम रेगुलर मीटिंग स्टार्ट करते हैं जो बीच में रुकी हुई थी। उसके लिए हम लोगों ने उस समय भी सुशील अग्रवाल जी हमारे कोऑर्डिनेटर थे उसके प्लानिंग बोर्ड के, और बाकी आप सब लोग हैं, गंजू साहब हैं, मैनी साहब हैं, और आज हम लोग दीपिका जी भी को भी हम लोग उसमें अपने प्लानिंग बोर्ड में शामिल करते हैं। ये हमारे लिए एक मतलब बहुत ही इनका जो एक आज का मैं वो देखने के बाद में काफी मुझे अच्छा लगा है कि आप देखिए, मैंने आपसे भी बात की थी दीपिका जी, आप सब लोग प्रोफेशनल्स लोग हो, आपके समय की कीमत है, और आप लोग लोगों के लिए प्राइवेटली काम करते हैं, तो आपको इसके लिए बहुत मतलब लोग इसके लिए पेमेंट्स करते हैं। लेकिन अगर मैं किसी को इनवाइट करूंगा तो हो सकता है वो स्वेच्छा से मेरे साथ ना जुड़े, लेकिन जो लोग स्वेच्छा से आगे आते हैं और वो जुड़ के काम करते हैं ऐसे सोशल वर्क वॉलंटरली, उसमें ज्यादा अच्छा रहता है। इसलिए हम लोग अप्रोच करके लोग, हो सकता है वो मेरे प्रेशर में या थोड़ा कहने से वो लोग जुड़े, लेकिन आप सब लोग ऐसे लोग हैं अपनी अपनी फील्ड में एकदम से आप बहुत एक्सपीरियंस्ड है, और फिर भी अपने अब स्वेच्छा से आप लोग मेरे साथ मुझे हेल्प करने के लिए, सोसाइटी को हेल्प करने के लिए आगे आ रहे हैं। ये एक अच्छी बात है। मेरी तरफ से मेरा जो प्लेटफॉर्म है एज ए MLA मेहरौली कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी तक, जो भी मेरी पावर्स हैं, दिल्ली सरकार की तरफ से जो भी चीजें हो सकती है, MLA की तरफ से जो भी चीज हो सकती है, वो मैं आप लोगों को पूरी हेल्प करूंगा, पूरा प्रोवाइड करूंगा।